Alright everyone, now it's time to talk about an epic legacy media fail, and by epic I mean I've never seen a fail this big before, actually, to tell the truth. This comes from Axios. They're trying to defend Bananarepublicbiden and his persecution of Donald Trump, and I'll just read the tweet verbatim here, and then I'll get into some of the countries that are on their, their map that they're referring to for this article's purposes. Oh boy, is this funny to me. Trump and close allies have argued that the multiple investigations he's facing, and in particular the search of the Mar-a-Lago property, are something out of a banana republic. They'll accidentally prove this to be true. But former leaders have been jailed or charged all over the world. Let's look at some of the countries that are on their map. There are a few certainly that are considered to be developed. South Korea, I think in their case it was their former leader was a member of a cult of some sort that was tied to all sorts of crime going on, so that makes sense. Iceland, but Iceland is fickle, and France, but they do that every generation or so just to keep up appearances. With those few exceptions, virtually all the other countries on this list are blighted third world banana republics. More than 95% of all the nations that are fucking Burma. Yeah, you want to compare Joe Biden to the Burmese leadership now, okay. Pakistan. I see Mongolia up there. This is a communist country with an extreme tin horn proclivity. Most of Latin America, most of North Africa, and most of Eastern Europe. So the most corrupt areas in the world with the least development, the least stability, the most prone to revolution and counter-revolution and civil war and famine. Libya, which I like how they label Libya complicated. Yes, the people of Libya, spurred on by U.S. action, decided to drag Gaddafi through the streets, sodomize, and I believe hang him, if I remember correctly. Can't remember whether they beheaded or hanged him in the end. Thus crushing Libya entirely and turning it into a sub-banana republic. There is no Libya anymore. You might as well just fucking partition the country and deal with the tribal warlords, because you're not getting it back now. Niger, Chad, Mali, places like that. The Sudan? The Janjaweed rebel overrun Sudan has problems politically? No. Really? By the way, shouldn't Eritrea be on this list? I have a feeling that they underwent such a coup at 1.2. South Africa, Madagascar, what stable nations here? You've got Ukraine. That makes sense. Romania. Are you talking about the removal of what's his name? Cusco or what? However the hell you pronounce it. Bolivia? Colombia? Brazil. Well, look at all of these stable nations. They're very stable geniuses, the governments of these particular states. Yeah, Thailand, they've never had any problems whatsoever with their political leadership. Paraguay, Peru, Ecuador. So in other words, many of these are leftoid or theocratic nations. Virtually none of them have a significant development index. They've got Iraq on the list. They should put that under complicated if they're going to do the same thing with Libya, by the way. Tunisia. I think it's Tajikistan over there. Tajikistan, rather. Oh, yeah, Bangladesh is on the list. Papua New Guinea, which has no functioning central government, if I remember correctly. So this Axios list is, you've got to be kidding me. I'm almost looking at this and I'm thinking, did Axios, maybe it's not an accident. Maybe they're trying to shed shade on Joe Biden and encourage people to believe, look at all these other nations where similar things have been done. And 95% of them are sub-third world hellholes, basically. This is a defense of Biden. Maybe they carefully worded this so that liberals wouldn't complain, because they are defending the Führer, Alzheimer's Adolf himself, Banana Republic Biden, the steward. But at the same time, they're doing like a Comey-like insinuation. Yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Here's the silent part they don't say out loud. He really is basically like a Fidel Castro Banana Republic style leader. Because he is. The kind of persecution that we've seen, the kind of economic woes that we've seen, the kind of sheer incompetence in foreign policy that we've seen, is indicative of the kind of politics that's more akin to the third world. It's not really the way that the United States typically has done business. It's not like the U.S., Western Europe, like Australia or Japan or something like that, countries that are sort of with it within that network of countries for diplomatic and economic purposes. Typically, you don't get this kind of behavior. I think that this will metastasize further. By the way, we have seen political persecution of people other than Trump in the United States and certainly in other parts of the world, including the developed world. We've seen the The Canadians have been persecuting political opponents. Germany is openly spying on one of its main outside political parties at the moment, in something reminiscent of the Weimar Republic, really. We've seen Marjorie Taylor Greene get persecuted. We've seen other Republican members of Congress especially, getting persecuted. Yeah, it is like a banana republic. Now, banana republic tends to be more of an economic term, to be fair. Specifically, it's the idea that you have an economy that's fully reliant on one main export. So you have a country, and the example is literally the only thing grown there is bananas. And so if the banana prices fall by half, their economy falls by half, and then they have a famine. If the banana prices rise, all of a sudden the dictator, Fidel or whoever, decides to build another mansion. And people stay poor, but at least they've got food on their plates. That's how a banana republic works. It is sort of similar to some aspects of the U.S. economy, though. The economy is all sorts of fucked up. The super rich are doing fine. Lockdowns. You lock down the economy, destroying small businesses, entrepreneurs, family farms, and shit. It didn't affect Walmart. It certainly didn't affect Amazon or any of the companies that engaged in shipping. It didn't touch them. eBay's like, oh, great. Yeah, our stock price is surging right now. We'll be a top 10 company again in no time. That's the way that things operate in the United States under Bidenomics. But the other aspect of a banana republic is typically the corruption. Out of touch, very rich elite, decreasingly wealthy population, and high levels of corruption at all rungs of government, and public safety is usually involved in that too. We have that in the United States. We have corruption within our police forces. When they're allowed to function at all, the opposite is that we have government corruption preventing them from functioning properly. We have an elite that demand that they have more security guards guarding them while they try to take people's own personal guns away. Over and over again, we see this pattern under the Beijing-Biden stewardship, the Bananarepublic-Biden stewardship. In that essence, it is very similar. The Axios article is comparing Joe Biden's administration with most of the third world. To be clear, looking at that map, for people that don't do very well in geography, I assure you I am on the other end of the spectrum when it comes to naming countries and knowing their geography. Most of those countries have systemic issues with corruption. Those are countries where people clamor usually to come to a place like the United States to get away from their dictator, to get away from their military oligarchy or whoever happens to be running the country at a time. You can have a carousel of leaders. First, you get the drug lord. Drug lord effectively takes over your country. Rules with an iron fist. The government's afraid of him. Government gets a handout from the U.S. or maybe the Russians or the Chinese, kicks the shit out of the drug lord. Then they become just as much like the drug lord. The remaining drug dealers, of course, are more than willing to work with the government as long as they keep getting their cut. They don't give a shit who the guy at the top is. Military gets pissed off. People are pissed at the continuance of corruption. They talk to a military general who has extreme ambitions and say, look, can you do something about this? So then the military rises up. They depose the government. They shoot a few of the drug lords. And then they end up in charge. They're still doing drugs. The government members willing to work with them are still in their positions. And you go around and around and around. Even if the people at large revolt, they get tired of the military, the politicians, the drug lords. They just lay waste to everything. What ends up happening when those people form a new constitution, so to speak? The same corruption comes back because nobody has the foresight, like, the older style revolutionary movements, to have a meritocratic system to try to design something that's actually fair to all people. And so it destabilizes and the process happens all over again. Or the Constitution is defanged, like you see in a place like Venezuela. It's openly ignored, and there's no stop. There's nothing to stop it from happening. Yeah, Banana Republic Biden really is a piece of work, and I'm loving the Axios article. Thank you, Axios, very much. Archived link in the description for in case after being extraordinarily ratioed, you make the smart decision to take your post down. That's about all. Peace out.